Years ago, when I first became a corporate recruiter, I didn't know what a knockout question was in an application process. So chances are, many of you don't either. In today's video, I'm going to explain exactly what a knockout question is during the application process for a job, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how to spot them, what they are, and what you should do about it. Let's go. Now, for most large enough companies, when they are hiring, when you apply for a role, your resume enters an applicant tracking system. And there you are stored with a bunch of other candidates for your respective role that you applied for. But it's actually not that cut and dry. And before I became a recruiter, I actually didn't know the process at all. And one of the things I just didn't know existed was a knockout question. And what a knockout question essentially is a question in the application process that are fashioned around the must-haves, and they are designed to have the applicants actually answer those questions while they're applying, and depending on your answer, you will be knocked out or not knocked out. And what it means when you are knocked out is that means a recruiter will never actually see your resume. The system won't even allow them to do that. No hiring manager will ever see it. So if you answer yes on a knockout question, and you're not supposed to answer yes, right? Like you're supposed to answer no, hypothetically. No one will ever see your resume. It will go off into a black hole. You will never be considered for the role. And no matter how good of a fit you are, if you answered the wrong answer to a knockout question, well, then you are knocked out of the process. Okay, so what are these knockout questions? Let me give you a few examples. So for example, if a 4-year degree is required for a role, a question you might get in the application process is, do you have a 4-year degree? And if you select yes, then great. You'll consider you to be moved on in the process. A recruiter will see your resume. They'll be able to judge, is this person a good fit? Should we move them forward or not? However, if you select no, they will never see your resume. So other examples of knockout questions are, will you now or in the future require sponsorship to work in the United States? That's a question that's getting at, do you need sponsorship to work here? If you're coming from another country and you've got your education in the United States and now you're trying to find work here, that process has to do with sponsorship, visa sponsorship, to keep you in the United States working. And some companies will have that question because they're not willing to sponsor people or they're not able to sponsor people. And if if it says, will you now or in the future require sponsorship to work in the United States? If you hit no, you will be moved forward. But if you hit yes, you will be knocked out of the process. Another example of it might be, are you willing to travel 50% of the time? Now, if the role requires you to travel, and then you hit no, like, no, I am not willing to travel that much, you will never be seen by a candidate. You'll never be in consideration for the role. If you hit yes, I am willing to do that, you will get moved forward. So the reality is there are a variety of different questions that you're answering. You upload your resume, you enter in information about yourself annoyingly because it's already on your resume, but then they might ask you a few extra questions. And those questions are knockout questions. And when I was a corporate recruiter, we would have, a couple different knockout questions for every single role. And if a candidate answered the wrong way to those questions, they would be knocked out of the process, and I would never see them as a corporate recruiter. Now, what these aren't are like questions about you identifying yourself, like, if they're asking about, race, if they're asking about sex, if they're asking questions like that, those are knockout questions. Those are just questions that they have to, to get different data that they're required from a compliance standpoint. They are not knockout questions, so those are different. Now, whenever I have a conversation with about this with somebody, one of the questions they always ask me is, well, then should I lie? And if I do require sponsorship, for example, should I say, no, I won't? That way I can move forward in the process. And the reality is I would say probably not, because they are going to ask about these qualifications in the interview. Like if you go, no, I do not require sponsorship, and you move forward, the recruiter is still going to ask you about this in all likelihood. They're going to ask you this question, at which point, you'll probably have to answer truthfully. And somewhere in the process, it will be found out that you answered, you lied on the knockout question, at which place they will remove you from the process. And that will make it much harder for you to ever get an opportunity with that organization. Like if you lie during the application and interview process, it's going to be hard for you to actually get a job in the future with this company. The reality is, if a company feels strongly enough about something that they make it a knockout question, they are not going to budge on that. They're not going to talk to a candidate and they go, oh, that was a really great candidate. Turns out this must have, well, they don't have that, but we still want to move forward. The reality is, Companies don't flippantly decide a question is a knockout question. If they designate a question as a knockout question, that is a non-starter if you don't qualify based on what that specific question is. So in total, basically, that's just a way for them to reject candidates automatically. Now, there's other situations in which candidates are rejected. Sometimes qualified and great candidates are rejected from roles. And that's why I made this video here. This video here is 7 bad reasons that hiring managers reject good candidates. And if you're interested at all, you should go watch it. It's a great video. I'll see you over there.